How do I wire my contactor to my capacitor and the contactor to the compressor and condenser fan?
Hi, I'm Brian. I'm here to answer your HVAC question to your satisfaction. Is chat working for us today?
Yep, it's fine.
Okay, great. Chat doesn't work with all devices, so I have to check.
No problem.
I have searched for ruud diagrams quite a few times and never found them, but if you tell me the color wires that go to the fan and the color wires that go to the compressor, we can take this step by step and get it right. Also, I am assuming it is a dual run capacitor with 3 terminals, is that correct?
That is correct. I have the wiring diagram, but it just doesn't seem to be exactly right. The old capacitor didn't have anything on it. The new capacitor has fan, compressor, and common. This should be a straightforward job but has turned into a nightmare and I am burning up. The new contactor is not like the old one. It has 2 sets of points. One of the problems is the wires are faded and I can't tell if they are orange or red. The 3 wires from the compressor are orange, black, purple. The wires from the condenser fan are black, orange, brown.
Okay, and there should have been a wire, usually red on ruud if I recall right, that would have been going from one connection on the old contactor to one of the posts on the capacitor. It should be a short wire with female spade terminals on each end. Do you have that wire as well?
Well, I know which wire you are talking about. I think it was a small orange wire and I put it on common on the capacitor.
Okay, thanks. On the new contactor, the terminals should be marked on the black plastic L1, L2, T1 and T2, correct? I will refer to these when telling you which wire to put where.
Okay. That is the way they are marked. I have the line wires connected at one end of the contactor.
Yes, that is first. The 2 incoming line wires should be on L1 and L2, and those will be the only wires on L1 and L2. Now for the other end of the contactor. The black wire from both the compressor and fan motor should go on T2, and those will be the only wires on T2. The orange wire going to the compressor should be on T1 along with the smaller orange wire that goes to the capacitor common terminal. The purple wire going to the compressor should go to the comp terminal of the capacitor. The brown wire going to the fan motor should be on the fan terminal of the capacitor. The orange wire going to the fan motor will go to the capacitor comm terminal along with the orange wire that goes to T1 on the contactor. That should be all of the wires. The comp terminal on the capacitor may also say HERM. Then of course the 2 low voltage wires should go one to each coil connection on the sides of the contactor.
Yes, the capacitor says HERM for compressor. One problem I am having is the contacts on the contactor are not pulling in. If I push down on it, it stays closed. So I am not getting the 24 volts I need to energize the coil. I have one small yellow wire hooked up to the coil on one side of the contactor and the small orange wire on the other side hooked to the coil and going to common.
There should be a small thermostat cable coming from the inside unit then going into the outdoor unit with 2, 4 or 5 wires in it. 2 of the wires will connect to the smaller low voltage wires that come out beneath the control box and be connected with wire nuts, and then each of them should go to contactor and connect one on one side and the other on the other side of the contactor. They should not connect anywhere in the high voltage circuit.
Okay, Brian. I will go and hook it up like you said. I'll get back to you.
Very good. I will save and exit and come right back when you post something new.
Okay. Thanks.
You are very welcome.
Okay, Brian, I am back. I did the wiring like you said and still have wires left over.
Okay. What color are they and where did they go?
I have one black wire from condenser fan and on my wiring diagram it shows going to ground. Is there a ground on the contactor? Every wire I took off came off the contactor. Brown wire goes down to high pressure reset. Where does it hook up on the contactor?
How many wires in total go to the condenser fan motor?
3. Brown, orange, and black.
Okay, so just as I stated much earlier, the condenser fan motor wires should be wired black to T2, compressor black should also be on T2, orange to capacitor COM, and brown to capacitor fan. If the condenser fan motor has a ground, which as I recall they did not from the factory, it will be green and connect to the unit casing. There is no ground on the contactor. All of the terminals are voltage terminals, either 24 volt or 240 volt. I did not realize you had a high pressure switch on the unit. Does the unit also have a low pressure switch?
Not that I can see.
Okay, then it's hard to say exactly how the unit was wired, so I have to tell you how to wire it so it will work. It may not be exactly how it was wired or how the wiring diagram states, but it will be electrically the same as it was and it will work. The high pressure switch should have 2 wires. It needs to break the low voltage circuit. In other words, if you take one of the wire nuts off of one of the low voltage connections, you will have the 2 wires there. Connect one each of those wires to one of each of the wires going to the high pressure switch, effectively putting the high pressure switch in series with the low voltage wire nut connection you undid.
Okay. Let's have it.
Beside the wires to the high pressure switch and the one black wire from the condenser fan motor, are there any other wires not hooked up?
No, that is all. I do remember that all the wires I took off were taken off the contactor or the capacitor. Where's the low voltage connection wires that you want me to hook to the wires of the high pressure switch?
Just so I am clear, on the new contactor, are the 2 low voltage terminals on the sides of the contactor? 1 terminal on each side? The brown and yellow wires that go into the control box have female spade connectors on them.
Are you talking about the spades on the side of the contactor that feeds the coil?
Yes, normally there are 2 spades on each side. Is that how your contactor is?
That is correct. How is the condenser fan going to run if the black wire is not grounded?
The unit is 240 volts. Both the compressor and the fan motor run on 240 volts. The fan motor does not use a ground or neutral wire like a 120 volt motor would. The fan motor has 3 wires: black, which is motor common and goes to T2 on the contactor, orange, which is run and goes to COM on the capacitor, which is also connected to T1 on the contactor. Those 2 connections give the fan motor its 240 volts. The brown wire, which is the start wire on the fan motor, goes to fan on the capacitor, which gives the motor starting and running torque. Okay, now for the low voltage circuit. You have a small yellow and orange wire connected to the contactor low voltage terminals, 1 on each side, right? Those 2 wires go through a hole in the bottom of the control panel through a small plastic clip, right?
I think so. I would have to go look at it. But I think the small yellow wire is hooked up on one side and on the other side is the orange wire hooked to common on the capacitor.
Yeah, if it is an orange wire hooked on the side of the contactor at the low voltage spade, you need to remove it. That is mingling high and low voltage and could do all sorts of nasty things to your low voltage circuit. The orange wire on COM on the capacitor should go to T1 on the contactor. If they used an orange wire for one of the low voltage connections, that is unfortunate and confusing to a layman or rookie tech.
Okay, Brian. I'm going to go and hook it up like you said. Is there a way I can print these instructions out?
I have worked on literally thousands of ruud/ream units. I can see them clearly in my mind. I just don't remember the wire colors, and as time went on they changed the colors occasionally. Let me give explicit instructions for the low voltage side before you print the instructions. Unfortunately, the site has no print function, so you would have to copy and paste our conversation into a word processor document such as Notepad or WordPad, etc. Then print it.
Okay.
We basically have 6 wires to deal with on the low voltage side. 2 that come from the contactor low voltage terminals, 2 that come from the high pressure switch, and 2 that come from the indoor unit through the thermostat cable coming into the condenser. If you have all 6 of those wires stripped and ready for wire nut connection, this is the way you will wire it. One of the small wires from the thermostat cable will connect with a wire nut to one of the wires that goes to one of the contactor low voltage terminals. The other wire in the thermostat cable will connect first to one of the wires of the high pressure switch with a wire nut. The other wire from the high pressure switch will wire nut to the remaining wire that goes to the other side of the contactor on the other low voltage terminal. Polarity doesn't matter here, so it doesn't matter what color goes to which wire as long as you follow the scheme above. One other thing that I thought of as I was typing the fan motor wires and where they go is that I referred to the black wire as the fan motor common wire. It is the common wire of the fan motor because all permanent split capacitor motors have common, run, and start. Your compressor has the same wires, it is the same type of motor. I just want to state that because common on the capacitor is different from common on the motors. Common on the capacitor just relates to the fact that the terminal is common to the 2 capacitors built into the single casing of the dual-run capacitor. The common wires of compressor and fan motor should not connect to COM on the capacitor. The orange run wire from the fan motor should connect to COM on the capacitor, and a wire should run from COM on the capacitor to T1 on the contactor as I stated above. I know it is a bit confusing, but it's just the way it is.
Okay, Brian. I know this is hard to describe how to repair something like this. I'm going to copy this and get it printed so I can wire it exactly like you said. I am 75 years old and this sun is hotter than hell. LOL. I will get back to you.
If you follow my instructions to the letter, I guarantee it will work. If you are in doubt about any of the steps, ask and I will help. As long as all components are okay and you get a signal from the indoor unit okay, the low voltage transformer and thermostat are okay, then we will get your unit running very shortly.
Okay, Brian, I am back and a little confused. It appears what you say on one page conflicts on what you say on another page. I am not even going to go into the low voltage side yet until I am clear on where the wires go from the fan and the compressor. Could you please just give me the directions where the wires go from the fan and where the wires go from the compressor? There are only 3 wires from the fan and 3 from the compressor. Where do the wires from the fan go and where do the wires from the compressor go? I want to get these wired up before I get into the low voltage sides of the contactor.
Okay, no problem. On the fan, the black wire will go to L2 on the contactor. The orange wire will go to COM on the capacitor, the brown wire will go to fan on the capacitor on the compressor, the black wire will go to L2 on the contactor. The orange wire will go to L1 on the contactor. The purple wire will go to HERM on the capacitor. There should also be a wire that goes from L1 on the contactor to COM on the capacitor. That should complete all high voltage wiring.
Okay, Brian. Let's stop there and I am going to wire it up this way. This is pretty clear. Be back later.
Very good. I will be here after dinner. Good luck and be safe.
Thank you. Brian, there is no black wire on the compressor. I took the cover off the lines on the compressor and there is 1 large purple equals T1C smaller T2 yellow equals ST3 large orange equals run. You said the orange wire goes on L1 of the contactor. Do you mean T1?
Oh, if I wrote that I was being dyslexic. The only wires on L1 and L2 should be the incoming power wires. Now that you have looked under the cover, I can say with absolute surety where the wires go. I never have figured out why the ruud wires fade so much.
No problem. Been there, done that.
The large purple on C will go to T2, the large orange on run will go to T1 and the smaller yellow on S will go to capacitor HERM. The condenser fan wiring will still be correct. I also stated the short wire going from capacitor COM to L1. It should have read, a wire should run from T1 to COM on the capacitor.
Okay, I am going out and put the wires on. Back later.
Very good, I'll be here.
Okay, I have all the high voltage hooked up. I now have a brown wire that goes to high pressure reset. Don't know what to do with it. I have the small red wire nut to small brown wire. Small white wire nut to yellow wire. I don't know if they are from the transformer or the thermostat. What do I do with them?
So if I am understanding right, the low voltage cable coming into your condensing unit has a red and white wire being used. The white wire from the thermostat cable is nutted to the yellow wire that goes up into the control box. The red wire from the thermostat cable is nutted to a brown wire that I'm guessing goes to the pressure switch, and a brown wire coming out of the pressure switch is going up into the control box. The brown and yellow wires that go into the control box have female spade connectors on them. Do I have that right?
Yes, that is correct. I'm still needing 24 volts to pull the contacts in.
Okay, then the brown and yellow wires that go into the control panel are the two 24-volt control wires that go to the contactor low voltage male spade terminals. One wire on each side, it doesn't matter which wire goes to which side.
The brown wire goes down to the pressure release button. I don't think I will get 24 volts from that. I have hooked the yellow wire to one side of the contactor but need another wire to hook to the other side.
The other wire is the brown wire from the high pressure switch.
That is correct. The end is just dangling up in the control box with a spade on it. I still need another wire to go on the other side of the contactor. Are the little red and white wires 24 volts? I haven't put a meter on them.
That's what I am saying. That brown wire is the other 24-volt wire that will go to the opposite side of the contactor on the other low-voltage terminal.
But that brown wire is going down to the pressure reset button.
Yes, the small red and white wire coming into the unit from a small cable is the 24-volt signal coming from the inside unit. Yes, that is correct. The pressure reset button is actually the high pressure switch. It wired into the low voltage circuit.
Well, I have the yellow wire on one side. Looks like I am going to have to get that red wire up to the other side of the contactor so it will pull in. I don't know what I am going to do with the brown reset wire.
No, you shouldn't have to get the red wire up there. The red wire should be already wire nutted to one of the brown wires going to the high pressure switch. 24 volts goes through the pressure switch, then up to the contactor coil through the other brown wire that comes out of the high pressure switch. You should just connect that dangling brown wire to the contactor coil terminal opposite the one the yellow wire is connected to. The yellow and brown wires are your 24 volts to the contactor.
You are right. I just went and checked it and plugged it into the other side of the contactor. I guess I am ready to try it. I haven't checked the transformer yet, but if it doesn't pull in, I will know maybe the transformer is bad.
I hope the transformer is okay too. If by chance the yellow and brown wires touched while the indoor unit was powered up and your thermostat was calling for cool, there is a pretty good chance you blew the transformer or low voltage fuse in the air handler or furnace. Hopefully not though. You should be ready to try it at least.
Okay. I will try it.
Let me know how it goes.
It didn't start and the blower won't even run. Thermostat bad.
I would be more suspect of the low voltage transformer or low voltage fuse if there is one that is in the indoor unit. What type of indoor unit do you have? Is it an air handler with electric heat or a gas or oil furnace?
My thermostat operates heat and air.
You can, however, check the high voltage side of your condensing unit by just manually pushing in the contactor with a plastic pen while the unit has power. You only have to push on one of the plastic point carriers over the contact points and both contacts will move down to the closed position. At this point they won't stay there like they did before since you have no low voltage. That will at least let you see that your compressor and condenser fan run and everything is wired right. Just be careful poking around the control panel with the power on.
Okay, I will do that. That was my next step.
Yes, most thermostats are wired to operate both AC and furnace. The low voltage power, however, will come from the furnace, or air handler, for both heating and cooling.
Well, the compressor won't start and I checked the circuit breaker. It had 220 there, but down at the other fuse box, I wasn't getting anything. I checked the contactor and was only getting 120 on one leg. Nothing from the other one. I checked from line to ground on both legs.
Yeah, that tells me you have an incoming circuit issue. A circuit breaker or fuse somewhere is not letting one leg of power through. On 240 volt equipment you should always measure line to line, by the way. You can easily get a feedback through a circuit that would fool you into believing you have 120 volts on each line when you may not.
This is weird. I don't have anything at the fuse box, but there is always 120 on one leg until you pull the circuit breaker off or pull the fuse out.
With that problem at your condensing unit, I would certainly check for power at your indoor unit. That may be the issue there too. What type of heating do you have?
Gas heating. It is a ream.
Okay, so you may be in luck there. Most gas furnaces built in the last 20 years have circuit boards in them with a low voltage fuse on board to protect the board and the transformer. In addition to finding out why your outdoor unit only has 120 volts instead of 240, you will also need to open your furnace to find out why you don't have 24 volt control power. If you can give me the model number of your furnace, I can look into it and see what I can find.
I checked where you plug the unit in and it reads 120.
Plug the unit in. Do you mean your furnace? Does it have a plug-in style means of disconnect? I actually have to sign out here in just a few minutes. I have an appointment I need to keep. If you can get me that furnace model number, I am more than willing to help you troubleshoot that unit tomorrow as well.
Okay, I will get that for you and talk to you tomorrow.
Very good then. I will look for the info tomorrow and we will pick it back up. I'm sure now that I know you have a meter and know how to use it that we can find the issues. I hope you have a good night in spite of the heat. I'm sorry we couldn't get you up and running today. Thanks, Brian.
I don't think the blower will come on until there is power at the circuit board. Talk to you tomorrow.
Hi Bill, I am online and ready to help. Hi Bill, I am online and ready to help. This is the question we need to continue our conversation on. I have sent the other 2 questions to customer service for a refund. I will save and exit and come right back here as soon as you post a response.
Okay, Brian, I am back. The model hashtag WAMA036 for the air conditioner.
Hey Bill, there you are. This is the only question that we should be chatting on. So come back here if we take a break. The model number you just gave me is for the condensing unit and you already gave me that model number in the question earlier. What I need is the model number for your furnace. You will have to remove the blower access panel to get to the model number, and that is also the panel you need to remove for us to do some troubleshooting on the furnace and see what the problem is. Please get me that model number so I can know what your furnace looks like and how to help you troubleshoot it. Thanks, Brian.
Model hashtag is 36A364T plus V. I think the plug-in is for the blower.
The number you gave me is for your cooling coil that is a separate component from your furnace. Your furnace model number will be inside the furnace behind the blower access panel.
It is a simple wall socket and I think it's for the blower. Brian, I don't see my answers showing up on my screen. Are you getting this information? Okay, I have it now.
I'm not sure. These are the last messages I got from you. Okay, Brian, I am back.
The model hashtag WAMA036 for the air conditioner model hashtag is 36A364T plus V. I think the plug-in is for the blower. It is a simple wall socket and I think it's for the blower. Brian, I don't see my answers showing up on my screen. Are you getting this information? If there are more messages, let me know. Sometimes chat can be iffy. If that is the case, I will switch to the other method of communicating, QA, where we will exchange messages one at a time, kind of like email. No, it's working fine now.
Okay, great. Yeah, if you can get me that furnace model number, that would be extremely helpful.
There is no power going to the furnace at all. There should be a red light on the circuit board when there is power there. There is nothing now.
Well, your furnace probably a blower door interlock switch that removes power from the board when you take the panel off. You have to push that in and put tape over it to bypass it while we troubleshoot it. If the furnace plugs into the wall or has a disconnect switch next to it, you should use your meter and check power there. You should also check your fuse or breaker panel since your AC unit outside is missing one of the two legs of power.
I understand about the interlock. I had problems years ago and wire nutted them together, so it doesn't make any difference if you take the door off. I have checked plug that the blower runs off of and I have 120 there. I don't think the blower will come on until there is power at the circuit board.
Okay, can you give me the model number of the furnace that is on the inside of the cabinet, please? I will look up the tech info for your furnace, then I will help you troubleshoot that board and see what the problem is. Also, do you see a fuse on that board? If that fuse is blown or if the 24-volt transformer is blown, the LED won't light.
Model hashtag is 36A364T plus V. I will look for a fuse, also see what the transformer reads.
That is the model number for the cooling coil, not the furnace. The model for the furnace will be inside the furnace near the board, usually on the inside of the cabinet casing.
Furnace model hash.
Thank you, Bill. Give me a little time to research your furnace and I will come back ready to help you troubleshoot it. Hi Bill, I'm back. There isn't much info available for your particular furnace, but if I can find the control board I can help you troubleshoot it. There should be a number on the control board like 62000000. If you can give me the numbers where I have the zeros, it would be very helpful. Thanks, Brian. Does your circuit board look like this one? Image src/src alt/alt width 130.9597523219814 width height 100/height style/style/image
6224,268.01 model 1012-925A.
Thanks for the bill. I will be able to get info on the board and that's all I really need to help. Okay, that's the board I thought was in your furnace. We need to take some voltage readings off that board. Let me know when you are ready.
I really don't like to go digging around on that circuit board. Just static electricity can ruin the board. I think the trouble lies outside where the circuit breaker is. I am only getting one leg from the new circuit breaker I put in. I don't know if this is a 2-pole or single pole. All I know is I'm only getting 120 volts and should be getting 240.
Agreed that your outdoor unit has a voltage problem, but the contactor still should have pulled in because the 24 volts for the outdoor unit contactor comes from the furnace inside. If the furnace had 120 volt power and 24 volt power, your thermostat would be running the furnace blower and engaging the outdoor unit contactor regardless of whether you have power to the outside unit or not. So it appears you have two problems. Static will not kill that board, it is well grounded. If you are uncomfortable probing with your meter, I understand that. You may need to call a tech in to diagnose why you have no 24 volts and why the LED on the furnace control board is not lit. My guess is either the furnace doesn't have 120 volt power coming in or the 24 volt fuse or transformer is blown. Voltage readings have to be taken off that board to find out what is going on with the control circuit. Your power problem outside is a separate problem, and if you change the breaker supplying it, then I would check power at that breaker and at the panel the breaker is installed in.
I have checked the circuit breaker outside and it reads 220, but down the line is another fuse box and it only reads 120 to ground on one leg. I have an electrician coming this afternoon and will let you know what he says.
Very good, let me know how it goes and if I can help further. Our chat has ended, but you can still continue to ask me questions here until you are satisfied with your answer. Come back to this page to view our conversation and any other new information. What happens now? Or, you can reply to me using the box below. Good morning, Bill. I was just wondering how things went with the electrician. Did restoring power to both units get your system up and running? Did your condenser work okay? Let me know if I can help further or if your system is up and running and you are ready to rate our session. Thanks, Brian.
Hi, Brian. The electrician came out and found I had circuit breaker tripped. I reset the breaker and got 220 at the contactor. Pushed down on the coil contact and the condenser fan, and I think the compressor started up. Ran about 5 minutes with me holding down the contactor, then the condenser fan and the compressor stopped running. I checked the contactor at L1 and had 220 across them, and when I pushed in the contact I got 220 out of the other side of the contactor. No circuit breaker tripped. Waited about 5 minutes, pushed the contact in and the compressor and condenser fan started up. I don't seem to be getting any power to the blower in the closet and the LED is not coming on. I think the problem lies there. I looked at the circuit and it looks like there are some fuses on the board, but I don't know where they are and what they look like.
Well, that's good news about your condenser. Pushing in the contactor on your condenser should have only been a 5 seconds test to make sure all was well there. The condenser should not be run for any length of time without the blower running and the control working automatically. I'm sure it will run fine when the furnace gets fixed. Looking at the board for your furnace, it does not have an onboard 24-volt fuse. The wiring diagram for your furnace, however, shows a low voltage fuse in line with the transformer 24-volt power wire between the transformer and the board. I can't see exactly what kind of fuse is, and I don't remember what the Criterion furnace low voltage fuse looks like. I would guess that it is in a fuse holder somewhere right next to the low voltage transformer. Since you had one power problem, you may have another. I would first probe the board to see if you have 120 volt power to the furnace. On your board, the power comes into it across spade terminals on one side. If the blown up parts diagram I have for your furnace is showing the correct orientation of the circuit board, the spade terminals where the power connects to the board are on the right side of it. You will see a row of 4 spades that are in a group and labeled neutrals, and right above those 4 will be 2 terminals marked XFMR and PRI, or they could both be marked L1. Either way, those are the terminals where you check for 120 volt power. With your voltmeter set to AC voltage, probe one lead of your meter to one of the spades marked neutrals and probe the other lead of your meter to one of the power terminals I referenced above. If you don't have 120 volt power there, the connection you said you bypassed years ago for the blower door switch may be bad, or you don't have incoming power to the furnace. If you have incoming power to the furnace, then we have to probe for 24 volts. On the circuit board just to the left of the 9-pin white Molex connector, there should be 2 spade terminals marked COM and SEC with 24 VAC XFMR between them. This is where the 24 volts connects to the board from the 120 to 24 volt step-down transformer. Probe those two spades for 24 volts. If you have 120 volts to the furnace and you don't have 24 volts to the furnace, you either have an inline fuse blown between the transformer and the board or the 24 volt transformer itself is blown. Once you restore 120 or 24 volt power to the furnace and the circuit board, your system should work properly. If by remote chance it does not, then chances are you have a failed circuit board. Let me know how those voltage tests go. Thanks, Brian.
Brian, there is no fuse in mine. I did find that I have 120 coming into the board. I don't think you have the same diagram I have. I also checked the transformer leads coming out of the transformer, and there was nothing, but I did have 120 going into the transformer. I disconnected the two yellow lines coming out of the transformer to the two spades on the circuit board, and there was nothing. There is 120 volts going into the step-down transformer but nothing coming out. If the transformer is bad, would that keep the air conditioner from running? I have 120 everywhere else.
Yes, Bill, your transformer is indeed bad. It has an open winding. It will have to be replaced. Fortunately, they are not very expensive. If at any time when your system was calling for cooling and the indoor fan was running and a cooling signal sent to your outdoor unit through the two low voltage wires coming into it, if at any time the low voltage wire coming from the Y terminal from your thermostat touched ground, it would have blown your transformer since there is no fuse. The transformer at the link below, even though it may not look or mount exactly the same as your current one, would work just fine. You also may be able to find one at Home Depot. They are carrying quite a few AC and furnace parts these days. http://www.supplyhouse.com/whiterogers90T40M1 transformer 40 VA 60 Hz to 120 volts primary 24 volts secondary multi-mount 14,930,000 P. GC-lit equals CumSubmer 8 CF POX 30 AIA. Hi again. I presented the additional services offer for help replacing your transformer due to the fact that I have spent many hours with you in chat and on research, and at this point answered your original question to success. I was further gracious enough to help you diagnose an unrelated problem to your first question. I feel it's only fair that another offer was submitted or you created a new question to resolve your new problem. We spent a great deal of time in chat, and under normal circumstances the original question and deposit grants 10 minutes of chat time. I held the timer back so we could get through your original problem, which we did. Let me know how you want to proceed. I am more than willing to help with your transformer issue with the acceptance of the additional services offer, or if you create a new question and request me for assistance on it. Thank you, Brian.
Hi, Brian. I have not got my air conditioner running yet. It seems I have a locked rotor. I'm going to have to buy a new compressor and have it installed. My model has the compressor is ZR34K3PFE230. 208 230 volt. 1 phase. I'm going to order one off eBay. I know this is an old compressor and the model hash not a good model hash. Is there a way I can find a replacement model for this compressor? You have been most helpful, Brian, and I appreciate it very much.
If you have a home improvement or appliance question and want to chat with an expert now, visit JustAnswer.com/YTHI.